Hello, Internet. I'm Sebastian Piccione, and welcome to the first episode of F3G2, Famous Faces and Funny's GonnaGeek review show, filmed by my sexy, you'll have to believe me, because I'm on the other end of the camera, sexy cameraman, Big Dave, and me. I am Sebastian. I told you that, and I'm gonna talk too damn much, and you'll find that out as we go. All right. We've done this show for in slight variations in a couple other places, and now we are here because you're just that lucky. You don't know it yet, but this is your new favorite show to never watch.
We may get some of our old audience back. Who knows?
It could happen. Maybe Peter Palmiotti's out there. I don't know. Peter, are you there? Are you there? I can't do this without you.
Yeah, just let them know.
We'll send him a link. All right, let's get started with some of this week's books because this is a big stack. It always is. X-Men, Wolverine and the X-Men, number 42. Glimpse into a, as always, we'll say possible future, because especially with the X-Men, they got more possible futures now. They may as well forget starting all these high schools. They need a college, because they got some bright future possibilities for all their stuff. There's like X scholarships. But it's got a corner box full of Dupe and Bamfs, so you can't go wrong there. We get to see some of them grown up. We get to see Old Man Logan. We get to see ID, all kind of grown up and very, very sensible, and even a slightly reformed but not quite reformed Quentin Quire as Phoenix. I love when they show him as a future Phoenix. Does make me wonder why the hell the Shi'ar Empire is trying young Jean Grey from the timeline before she became Phoenix, if we can already see that on many occasions that Quentin Quire is going to be the new Phoenix, and I'd be much more scared. He's not the kind who's only going to eat a planet full of broccoli people. He's kind who's going to go find a sentient world and go, and yum, and then wear a shirt that says, planet was right. Broccoli people were right. That's what he'll do. This is really, really good. I'm so sad to see this book end, and I have high hopes, but much trepidation for the new run of it, because it's not the same people. They're good people, but this book made a special. It brought me back into the X-Men, and I didn't read X-Men for years because, let's face it, they sucked for a while. But now they're like awesome, and I don't know how the hell that happened. Superior Spider-Man. Speaking of things that I thought were going to suck and are coming to an end, Superior Spider-Man number 28. It's a little slow going, and it's hard because Slott's going to pull out some surprises because he's Slott. That's what he does. But at the moment, you almost have the impression for the first time in a long time, because in Dan Slott's run, you never feel like you know what's going to happen, because just when you think you do, he goes, "Oh yeah, well, look what I wrote," and you're like, "What?" All right, but right now you kind of know. Okay, well, Peter's coming, so we at least know an end result of what's happening. We may not be 100% sure on what's going to get there. They've hinted that there's going to be a death. I'm very worried that death may be a tiny little woman. What? Would you be killing the Doc Ock girlfriend? Although it will make it a lot easier than trying to explain, look, I don't like you anymore. I used to be Doc Ock, but now I'm Peter Parker, and I'm leaving you for... nothing's more insulting than when your nerdy boyfriend dumps... You're a diminutive woman. You're a... we'll say midget. We can't say that. We'll say small person, scientist type, and you meet your scientist boyfriend, and everything's going well, and then for what seems like no reason, he starts acting really weird and dumps your ass for a redheaded supermodel. That's a crushing blow to your ego. And when his only excuse is, I'm not the man I was anymore. When I met you, that's gonna suck.
Even if it really is true.
And it is interesting because ultimately in the Goblin War versus the Spiders, it really is like a battle to see who's the greatest Spider-Man villain. And Doc Ock has defeated Peter in a way no one else ever has. Can you yell at them to shut up because they're getting too loud? And he's defeated him in a way that no one else ever has. But now, as Spider-Man, he himself is being defeated by Green Goblin and a small army of goblins. So there's some interesting dynamic. You never thought, you've seen villains fight before over who's the best, but never in a dynamic quite like this. So it really is something old, something new kind of deal. All right, let me pull out a different book to go with this. All right, Batman Superman number 8. and Huntress Power Girl, World's Finest number 20. Both really, really good. These are both the continuing storyline where our Earth 2 superheroes are meeting their fathers, well, their father and cousins' counterparts on Earth 1. And it's really good. First off, Pac is back. All right. See, it's not really Pac is back, but Pac is back. I loved the first run of this, and a lot of it had to do with Jay Lee. And then they lost me on that Toyman with Brett Booth artwork story. It just seems silly, and I'm not a huge fan of Brett Booth. But this, once again, I don't know what it is. You know, they say you write to your, you know, a good writer writes to their artist. I tried, Dirk. I tried. One of my artists is over there. I write comics. You've never heard of them. It's okay. I forgive you. But you're going to hear that guy. So
You'll hear of him eventually.
yeah, when you're reading it and going, wow, this art is great. It's a shame he can't find a better writer. He will. Don't worry about it. But Greg Pak really, it's the whole tone of this changes, and it's like he knows he's writing for Jay Lee, and that's not. It's not a deliberate knock on Brett Booth. I'm not a huge fan of Brett, but I don't mean to say that he's bad. It's just his style is different, and therefore the other story became, you know, kind of funnier, sillier, and just didn't work as well. This is much more moody and subtle, and the art is just gorgeous and really reflects that rather well. And then you've got the interplay of first Power Girl's out of control, and Batman and Huntress go to help her, but Superman gets in the way, and then he's kind of taken out. So now you have Huntress behind with Superman and the unlikely pairing of Batman and Power Girl. And Power Girl doesn't like to be spoken to in Batman's absolute tones, and Batman doesn't like people who don't listen, and is getting a view of, he thinks Kryptonians, they're just arrogant. It must be a racial trait, you know, because apparently he's speciesist. But both really, really well done. Holy to craps! Mighty Avengers number 7, best issue yet, and I've liked every issue. I really liked last issue with the Falcon, but this one, I don't know how you say this. Valerio looks like. Look, I'm going to say I'll do it with the Parataliano. Okay? Valerio Shiti. Okay, which as an artist, when your name looks like shitty. You know, it's like with a name like Smuckers, it has to be good, and it is. This was I think, my favorite art issue yet. You know, Greg Land's art. You can love him, hate him. You know, with the photographs, whatever the hell you want to bitch about. But his pictures are very good, but they're also very, very static because of his photo usage. The art doesn't. You know, people tend to be posed and in still. There's a lot of energy in this that wasn't there, and really works well because the idea is, while stumbling across the person who is responsible for the death of White Tiger's family, she gives in, and she's not in control anymore. She lets the Avatar, the spirit, the god, the White Tiger, control her because he wants to go out and hunt anyway. So she's like, it's like, look, I'll do all this killing. You let me do it. I'll go kill this guy. And the rest of the Avengers kind of have to stop her from becoming a murderer, but they're basically fighting a god. And so you've got a great scene with the new Power Man, the younger one, and Iron Fist versus the god, the White Tiger. And there's some really, really good moments, and it's just a great story, powerful art, well done. Hawkeye number 15. It's Hawkeye. If you haven't been reading Fraction's Hawkeye, what the hell is wrong with you? This is great. There's a whole lot of Hawkeye with his pants at his ankles because he breaks his belt in the beginning of the comic and can't keep his pants up for the entire issue. All right, because he's Hawkeye, and he keeps yelling out Barney because his brother is hiding around in the background, and it's the Barton brothers just beating the fuck out of Russian mobsters because once again Clint has leapt without looking and backed themselves into such a corner that even their Avenger status is not going to get them out of this, and it doesn't end well, like at all. which is common in Hawkeye. So hopefully it's less permanent than it looks. Clearly it is, because the book is still going. And it's Hawkeye. He's got a whole nother Avengers movie to do. But things don't look well for the Barton brothers. Unless there's a third brother out there, a la Summers style, we may need to rent a new Hawkeye.
They've probably got a kid or something running around at this point.
This son of Hawkeye. They're gonna have to get Alan Alda to be Hawkeye, or Donald Sutherland. Indestructible Hulk number 19. Wade can write. Mark Wade can write anything. There's like a reverse Hulk, and not like in a reverse Flash kind of way. The Terrigen Mists have turned one of Banner's
Personalities.
one of his scientists, the staff that he has.
Oh, he's
Who's always trying to, all he ever wants to do is appease people. He had an abusive, he has an origin similar to the Hulk's, but instead of venting the anger, instead he's always an appeaser. No, don't get mad, let's talk about it. And the Terrigen Mists transform him into this big red Hulk-like monster that, instead of being fueled by rage, actually feeds the rage of others. He sucks rage out of you. And as a result, the end of last issue, he had turned Hulk back into Banner by sucking all the rage out. But then the ship gets attacked, Banner is plummeting to the earth, and this one picks up with him falling to the earth and thinking about, for the first time in his life, he can't get mad. He can't summon up any anger or anxiety, and he's going to turn into, in the end he has to break his own fingers just for the adrenaline rush to turn into the Hulk before he dies. Because he's just like, well, fuck, he's like, you can almost hear that song that, I'm happy, as he's falling to his death. And, of course, when you're a guy who feeds on rage and wants to make everybody happy, and your boss is the Hulk, it's not going to end that well, and there's misunderstandings, all right? It's so perfect. Wade wrote the ending. I was so frustrated with the characters because they couldn't do what I could, which is just flip back a page and go, no, look, this is what happened. Look at this panel. All right, and they were jumping to conclusions that are perfectly understandable to jump to, but it was just frustrating as hell, and that's a beautiful thing when a writer can really frustrate you on purpose. The frustration they were looking for, not the frustration where you're flipping through pages and going, what the does any of this mean? Which again, feel free to see my books. But this so good. Okay, new people, get used to this when I do my reviews. Superman number 28 by Scott Lobdell and Brett Booth is in fact a comic that came out. And that's all I have to say about that. No, that's not true. Let me say something about that. I forgot. I got specifics. There's some good Lois moments. Lois had a nice week this week. She has her own book in here somewhere. So there are some nice Lois moments, although I think the idea of having her come out of a coma with mental powers is just stupid. If it was done right, it could have at least reminded me of a nice nod to the weird, like 50s and 60s super great Scott, Lois has gotten this fantastic power and I'm the mortal, or whatever the hell but it's not handled that way. And instead it's like, I can't wait for this story to be over.
Jimmy.
But also there are some panels here of Clark. He's sitting around in a Flash t-shirt because DC and most comics love to have their heroes wear t-shirts of other heroes. But the way Brett Booth draws Clark, he draws Clark bigger than he draws Superman. And he draws the shirt tighter. Clark's shirt and pants are tighter than the New 52 Superman armor. So I don't understand why people can look at this Clark and not know that he's, I get it. You don't have to do the whole mild-mannered, frumpy-looking, suits too big, pushing your glasses up, freshly squeezed, Lois. Christopher Reeve Superman, although that's a great Superman. But look at the linebacker let me find a bigger picture here. Look at the linebacker-like shoulders on this guy. This shirt that is straining to cover him, and they have him stand up. Everyone comes up to everyone is like Clark nipple height, and no one says, "Wow!" No one even, Clark, you're ungodly huge. It's just he just kind of sits there in this shirt, and these, and I don't think that the Clark didn't work. The Superman was better, but the Clark didn't work for me. Fracture number 3 of 4. I'll be sad when it's over. From Action Lab. It's so good. It's so twisted. I want more. I already want more miniseries of this. Fracture has been separated. He's the guy with multiple personalities. Each personality has its own superpower. Some of them are heroes, some of them are villains. And he didn't know about any of them until recently. Now, through the help of a we'll go with mad scientist acquaintance of his, who has been isolating the personalities within Jeff's mind, cloning his body, and giving each body its own fracture of personality. So now Virtue, the hero, has his own body because Virtue was married and had a kid, and Jeff had no idea about any of this. Now she gets to keep Virtue without, she doesn't know Jeff. So she's, there's Virtue who can have his own life and there's whatever. But Jeff is now experiencing all these other personalities. However, without Jeff to round them out, the personalities are a lot more one-dimensional than they used to be. And you've got Virtue gets jealous and thinks that his wife is cheating on him. Granted, someone messed with his mind to make him think that. Or they didn't even mess with it, they just kind of suggested it. They said, why is she always hanging out with the other you? And he goes and sees them talking together. And they're actually talking about Virtue, but Virtue don't care. And he now, Virtue can join the Hank Pym category of wife abuse, but Hank Pym doesn't have like Superman powers. So when Superman smacks Lois around, it's a lot worse than, it's physically damage-wise. It's still the same worst level on social acceptance kind of thing. But damage-wise, Ant-Man smacking you in the face is not the same as Superman saying, "What were you doing?" Smack. That, it's like smack and you're on the moon. It was like smack and there's a bug on you. It's not the same thing. All right. Really well done. And our scientist friend has a dark secret. Ooh, I'll tell you my dark secret. Keeps clones behind the boathouse. Here's that Lois Lane I was talking to you about. Lois Lane number 1 was really good. I didn't expect it to be, not because I love Lois Lane, I love it, but I find most of the time when they do a story like this, it tends to be a story that
Didn't need to be told.
sometimes the one shots seem like it's not like well, here's a story. It's the old blurbs of the story you never thought we'd tell. It's like the story no one even suspected we'd tell. It tends to be like the story you'll wonder why we told. But this was really good. Gives a new look in the New 52 relationship of Lois and Lucy Lane. Superman is minimally involved, which is nice, because you get to see Lois stand on her own, and that's part of the point of it. And it's really well written, and the art is pretty solid. It introduces an agent called Agent. He's this mask that almost has like an Anarchy A on it, but doesn't. Can you remind them to keep it down again? Because they're not listening so good.
Go see that, please.
It's we're filmed live in the back of a comic store, people. So enjoy the ambience as gaming tournament stuff happens and sometimes wafts over into our little world here. But yeah, so the agent made me miss U.S. Agent, but he's a totally separate character. And yeah, it's written by what's her name, Marguerite Bennett. Yeah, Marguerite Bennett, who's written a handful of things. She wrote I didn't get to review it, the Joker's Daughter, because they got shorted here at the store, so I never got a copy to read. But yeah, this was really well done. Argus number 5 was less well done. It had some decent moments. Really great moment with Cheetah trying to use the Wonder Woman's lasso of truth on Steve Trevor, and Steve Trevor's like, the lasso of truth works for the pure-hearted. Which one of us do you think is more pure-hearted? And kind of turns it back on her. But also Steve Trevor kind of feeding on this train that he's like, I am more than just Wonder Woman's boyfriend. There's more to me than that. But at the same time, while it was good, it also fell half flat because I really couldn't tell, was this Steve Trevor declaring this to the world, or was this DC's editorial and Sterling Gates telling, trying to tell the readers, no, really, trust us, read Steve Trevor. There's more to him than just that. Fantastic Four #1. Red costumes. No explanation. Just red costumes. Screw it. They're the Fantastic Four. They don't got to answer to Drew. It was good. Not great, but the potential is there, so I'm going to stick with it and try and see it out. I don't like the constant need to deconstruct. I get it that makes for great conflict, which therefore tells great stories, but it seems like every time someone we need to a new idea for a new take on a comic, they'll take comics that are supposed to be the fun comics and deliberately darkify them. And while I'm curious as to how the Fantastic Four gets to the state that they're in the beginning, because it's all kind of told in flashback as Sue Richards is writing to Valeria Richards, but I'm not, it's the first issue, it's got to set stuff up, it's good, it's solid, it hasn't set the hook yet, so I'm hoping that, that there'll be some hook settage in #2. Guardians of the Galaxy #12 is just awesome. Ooka chaka, I'm just dying for this movie. This is so well done. Bendis, his Avengers wore on me. His Avengers never seemed to do anything. It was always like these long moments and conversations around tables in between things that were supposed to happen that took forever to happen. But his Guardians and his X-Men stuff has been the exact opposite. Shit's just happening all over the place. They're still talking. He's Bendis. He can find there's a space left. Here's a dialogue balloon. I'll get that in there. But he has been making so many things happen. And Cyclops and his dad, it's just a weird reunion because we've already seen them reunite, but now only for, the dad gets to have his second reunion with his son. And you get some vulnerability on Cyclops. Little Cyclops. And you get some vulnerability on Little Cyclops half, and a tender moment from X-23. Who knew? Come see the softer side of Psychos. And it's so well drawn. Who's the art on this? It's Sarah Piccione. That makes perfect sense. And Stuart Immonen. So it's like great art and great art in making a great art sandwich. Man of Bronze, Doc Savage, #3 from Dynamite is good. He's starting to look the part. He's still not officially quite so bronzed yet, but he looks like Doc Savage, and that alone makes me happy. And it's very well drawn, very well drawn, very well written, and really, really just good. Legends of Red Sonja. Look at that cover. That's just. That ape doesn't know. He's like, I'm gonna pull a King Kong. He's like, no, I am not Fey Ray. Shaking. All right, so you've got Gail Simone, Mercedes Lackey, Marjorie Liu, all writing parts of this story. If you're not reading Dynamite's Red Sonja, you should be, since they gave Gail the reins, and Gail went out and said, hey, this is Red Sonja. I'll do the Red Sonja book, and let's do a Legends of, where we just go girl power on the writing staff, and it's been awesome. There's the right amount of, you don't want to say, vulnerability mixed with the power, but no, it's not even a matter of that. She writes, she's Gail Simone. This is what she does. She writes Sonja as a person, not as a barbarian or a hot woman or a warrior or a woman with a tragic past. She writes her as a person, and all of those blend to just make her so well-rounded and so likable. Army of Darkness versus Hack and Ash, #6. I've been telling you the whole time, this is good. It ended and made me sad. The ending really made me sad because there's, a little moment there. The art in this issue, very heavy, but I liked it. It's very very boldly outlined, but it worked and gave it like a nice feel, and very, very good. Deadly Class #2. I liked #1. I started reading #2 and was thinking, do I really want to continue with this book? It's one of those teen set. But then, oh my God, I just started reading, and by like page 3, suddenly I was like, yeah, I'm reading this book. It's so well done. Some creepy moments. Don't leave the guy in the end in the farm. This is don't do things like that with goats. But imagine typical. But most of it is imagine typical. You're you're the new kid on your first day of school, and a school that is designed for, we'll go with gifted. So everybody already has their cliques, and everybody has, check out the new. But you're not only the new kid, but you're the new kid who there's already rumors about that you're supposed to be better at what you do, at what everybody else does than they are. So they're right. There's people who want to become friends with him, people that want to use him, and people that just want to, take him down a notch and prove whatever. And dialogue is great, characterization is great. Nothing feels forced or stilted. It was really well done. And then they get their assignment, which is for one of their special classes that he gets picked into, that you have to be the best of the best to get into. They have to go kill a vagrant, hide the body, and whatever, because this is an assassin school. That's what they're going to school for. It's a deadly class. It's not on accident. That's not hyperbole. It's deadly classes. He has like first period is like there's a part where it breaks down all of the classes, and he's got first period assassin psychology, second period beheading, third period poison.
There's a class.
And he goes to lunch. Yeah, there's a beheading class. And it even tells them, fifth period, hand-to-hand combat. But the beheading class, the teachers even tell you, you don't want to, your target deserves a clean death. Which means you have to commit completely and follow through, because if you don't take off the head at the first, then you're sentencing your target to a to a very agonizing death. And so there's like an honor among thieves. There's an even more honor among assassins. But sibling rivalry, not sibling, school rivalries can get really, really deadly. And it's really good. Hardcore number 0. Bloodshot and Hardcore 0, because we already had Bloodshot 0. Now they're Bloodshot and Hardcore mixed. So this is the Hardcore part of 0. The origin of the Hardcore program. Really well done. Stages back to Vietnam and cuts up through the modern day. Valiant's just killing it. They're Valiant. Read this. Ghostbusters number 13. Because he's gone. Hal Ramis is dead. Hal Ramis, we salute you. World is darker without you. I'm gonna go home and watch Stripes again. This is so good. It's a storyline designed to celebrate the 30th anniversary, so this is the first part of mass hysteria. Things start going wrong up to and including we get a familiar face back in the comics here. Dana Barrett is back, and her fridge is full of otherworldly entities again. Not the same otherworldly entities, but new ones, and she's not happy about it. And even with the style, I love is Dan Schoening's art. I love it so much. And even with his intensely stylized, he does a Dana Barrett that is at once his own stylized, animated looking thing, and at the same time, it just is Sigourney Weaver. And it's amazing. And it was just even down to even the expressions, just like when you first see her on the phone talking in the fridge, there is no doubt who the hell she is, and it's brilliant. And just great stuff. Read this. The Wake. Like comics love to do the 1 year later, 500, 2 years later, 5 years later. This is 200 years later. And yet somehow we still have the potential return of a character from the first run. Who knew? But it's 200 years later. The Mer people have succeeded. They sank part of the world. They brought the ice. They literally, forget global warming. They dragged the ice to where it would melt and flooded more of the world so that they could get inland and get more people to feast upon. And now there's it's like Waterworld meets forget the swimming dead, but there are definitely swimming monsters coming after them. So very intense, very well done. can actually read that. That's just in there. Talon number 16. Getting ready to end, which makes me sad because I'm going to miss Talon. This is the Tim Seeley story arc with the unlikely, of all the villains he could have picked, he went with the oft-forgotten bat villain of Lord Deathman. And this issue kicked ass. Which I almost hoped it would suck, so this way, if it sucked and the book ended on such a dull note, I could at least take solace in it going out. But no, it's going to go out really, really well, and I'm going to be sad. It focuses on an aspect that I hadn't thought of. Calvin Rose was an escape artist. Now he's dead, and the master unkillable assassin as this undead Talon. But in being dead, he doesn't feel as well. He doesn't feel pain. He doesn't feel, he doesn't have sensations. So he keeps locking himself and trying to do his old escape route, but he can't. He's not as nimble a finger in this state. So he's lost a lot of the escapism, and he presents a rather interesting argument for why he thinks some of that is psychological. But really well done. I'm gonna miss this book. Serenity number 2. So good. And you know there's a Whedon writing it because every time a character speaks, you hear it in that character's voice. And I don't just mean voice like the actor's voice. I mean voice like I'm an English teacher and I say you should get your voice across, your distinct voice in your writing. There's not a lot of phonetics in here to make it sound like some of the characters' accents, but you hear it like the characters say it. Some of the narration that you hear from Jubal Early, you hear it in his voice. Anytime Mal speaks, it's totally Mal, and it's just so well done. And there's so many feels as it goes out. Just so good. Rat Queens number 5. If you're not reading this book, you're a fool. All right, Rat Queens is the greatest. It is like Riot Girls meets Dungeons and Dragons in this like ridiculous, over-the-top romp, and not ridiculous like this thing's ridiculous, but ridiculous like it's just outrageous. Like there's no way you could. Every time you think, okay, this is where the line is drawn, it takes it to another bold and crazy step. I love these characters. I love the way they interact. I love the art. If you're like, well, I don't really like fantasy. Doesn't matter. Read this and see, because it definitely takes place in a fantasy world. One of the characters is a dwarf. One of the characters is a mage. One of the characters is, she's a smidgen, but that's kind of like a hobbit. And one of the characters is like and then there's the human. But they're teaming up with orcs. They're kissing Orc Dave. Orc Dave has a big beard. It reminds me of a Dave I know. Orc Dave gets laid, so good on you, Dave. Cameraman getting it on.
Everyone loves orcs, man.
With the Dwarven Warrior. But it's just so good. If you're like, oh, I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons person, or I'm not into that kind of thing, read it and then decide, because it's really, books like to say, well, this is incidental, it's in here, but that's not the end all be all. It really is. It's really character driven, and character driven with a touch, with just enough event driven stuff going on that the fantasy aspect is just another part of the story. It's just a great story, and you should read it. All right, I got some trades to go out. I'll just give them quickly. DC Universe presents, otherwise known as D-Cup, Black Lightning and Blue Devil. I've waited forever for this to come out. I read these in the DCU Presents, and I just wanted them now. Really good. I mean, it's not their original versions, obviously, but for New 52 versions, I'll take them. There's also some other stuff in here, including the Beowulf stories that were some of my real favorites. They were by who the hell wrote those? It was Tony Bedard wrote those. Yeah, Tony Bedard wrote those, and Javier Pina did the art. So crazy beyond good that you'll never know. This is one of the best trades you wouldn't think of until you get it. Superior Foes of Spider-Man, collecting number 1 through 6. I keep telling, well, you don't know mostly, but on the old show I used to keep telling people this book is so good. It's so well written. so funny, but not like, it's not just a book for comedy. It's a humorous supervillain heist book. Those movies, humorous heist movies do really well. This is that, just with people in costumes instead of in slick suits. Sometimes they wear the slick suits, but they're not so slick. Cheap suits and fancy costumes. So well done. So glad this will continue, at least to start out, past Superior Spider-Man, because this has been awesome. And Invincible Volume 19, The War at Home, which was filled with shocks for me, though not for you, because you guys already know everything that happened, whereas I read Invincible in trade. So, oh my goodness. And it's Invincible. It really is the best superhero comic out there. So, sorry that took so long. I can't say it won't happen again. I'm out.